This is KKSU-LD, broadcasting in high definition from Kansas State University, covering Manhattan, Riley County, and the Flint Hills. You're watching Channel 8 News.
Good morning and welcome to a Channel 8 News special, Cultivating Roots in the Heartland. My name is Kyra Case. For the next half hour, we will explore how agriculture shapes the Kansas economy and the challenges farmers may potentially face as it changes. We will look at how Kansas State researchers are searching for a solution for anything from weather changes to pest resistance. Plus, some insights on how K-State is working with farmers across the state to stabilize the Ogallala Aquifer. And a deep dive with two Kansas State professors about the 2025 Farm Bill and what that might mean for you. But first, we will look at how seasonal challenges can impact the average Kansas farmer.
Seasonal challenges are nothing new for farmers, but this year's unusually warm and wet weather brought a pleasant surprise different than what they're used to.
If we have really unpredictable weather late in the season, especially if we're talking about cold temperatures, that can be a significant problem for crops that are still trying to mature. So double crop soybeans would be a good example of that. We don't give those soybeans as long of a season to grow. And so what that means is if that season gets cut any shorter than it already is, that can cause significant issues. But we really haven't had too much of that issue. We actually had kind of a late freeze this year, which was beneficial for crops that were still trying to finish the season and getting to that point. So I don't know that that's been too much of a challenge. The weather throughout the year was really good this year. Actually, we had a really great growing year.
The weather proved ideal not just for growing, but for harvesting too. And as the seasons change, some farmers are still bringing crops in.
So right now, back at the home farm, we're actually still cutting some soybeans, harvesting them, because we weren't able to get them planted in for so long because of the weather we had earlier this year being so much rainfall. It's hard to believe, being from Kansas myself, from Southeast, and not many other people see that here in Kansas either.
In Manhattan, Lauren Betts, Channel 8 News.
Farmers say they'll keep watching the weather closely as we head deeper into winter to see how the soil reacts to abnormal seasonal changes we're experiencing this season. When it comes to water conservation, sometimes it's best to think beyond Riley County and take a look at the other side of the state. With the water mostly sourced from the Ogallala Aquifer, Wichita County boasts one of the more strict LIMAs in Kansas.
This county is just over a 4-hour drive from Manhattan, but the collaboration between western Kansas counties and K-State remains strong regardless.
The Wichita County WCA is aggressive, and I recall when they were first ideating that plan, even though it had this kind of long-term ramp into it. I think it's every 7 years they agreed to commit to a more stringent level of conservation. There were a lot of people, even outside of the county, that said that seems impossible. But those inside the county that were committing to it said it will be aggressive, it will be difficult, but our alternative is much more difficult.
Getting the local enhanced management area, or LIMA, off the ground in Wichita County wasn't all sunshine and roses. Matt Lawn, a big proponent for the LIMA, said initially failed to go through in 2013. Then, in 2014, he was asked to join a county water conservation meeting.
There had been some laws changed at the state level that allowed for individuals and groups of individuals to start their own water conservation areas. And so we, over time, this group kind of molded around. Some people that were initially involved dropped out, some other people joined us, and we developed a plan called the Wichita County Water Conservation Area, which was a plan for water conservation that people could voluntarily enroll into.
Lawn says the county is currently 14 years away from hitting the 50% reduction rate in water usage, but is optimistic the county will reach that goal.
Lawn says the goal of the LIMA is to keep the aquifer where the county resides at a stable recharge level, first keeping how much is pumped out equal with what is flowing in. Farmers aren't the only ones affected by the voluntary LIMA in Wichita County. Those who use the county water have to follow water rules implemented 10 years ago, such as not watering their lawns from noon to 7 and not leaving hand watering unattended.
We're from a small community that needs water, and if we don't have water, my kids, your kids, grandkids, that's essential for keeping our town alive. If we don't have water, we're going to be in the same boat as like Hayes and piping in water from who knows where. And we don't have the financially, we don't have those resources to do that. So if we don't save our water, our town will essentially dry up. So we just all have to do our part.
Currently, in Riley County, 5,914 people are affected by drought, according to the National Integrated Drought Information System. This number, in comparison, is much lower than the over 17,000 affected in late January 2025. To measure drought, the NIDIS uses a Drought Severity and Coverage Index, or DSCI, a tool designed to convert drought levels shown on the U.S. Drought Monitor map into a single numeric value for the specific area. These values range from 0 to 500, 0 indicating no drought or abnormal dryness, and 500 signifying that the entire area is experiencing exceptional drought. As of the NIDIS's last report, many counties in Kansas had no report or had a DSCI of 0, creating a much harsher gradient going into the northeastern counties. Comparatively, in late January, the DSCI slowly got higher the further north you get in the state, peaking at a DSCI of 200, making, once again, a harsh gradient going north. Between 2020 and 2024, Kansas had a DSCI peak of 369 in 2022, a number that has since seen a downward trend that will hopefully continue in the years to come. Taking a closer look at our most recent map, Riley County has a DSCI of 107, Pottawatomie 122, Clay 148, and Geary hitting the lower end of that at 39. Coming up, a look at how K-State researchers are pushing agriculture towards the future, and how one farmer makes an hour-long trip to sell a product that many may not be so familiar with. Also, we will question how future generation of farmers balances their life on the farm with their schoolwork. Don't go anywhere, that's all next. From the skies above Kansas fields to the labs at K-State, scientists and engineers are pushing agriculture into the future. Using drones and robotics, they're developing new ways to help farmers monitor crops, manage resources, and care for acres that stretch far beyond what the eye can see. Reporter Adolfo Blanco shows us how farmers are integrating technology in the fields where technology meets the heart of Kansas farming.
In Kansas, farmers are facing more challenges than ever. Unpredictable weather, rising input costs, and the constant pressure to do more with less. But new technology is giving them a powerful set of tools, both in the air and on the ground. At K-State, researchers such as Trevor Witt, K-State graduate research assistant, are using drones to tackle some of farmers' toughest pest problems, including the destructive Henson fly.
Where a Hessian fly reduces wheat yields by as little around 10%, and it can bump up to the 15, kind of 70% across the world. That this drone signal means that the plant has either been resilient or susceptible to that Hessian fly pressure.
These drones aren't just taking pictures, they are capturing both visible and invisible light to create what researchers call a spectrum signature, a digital snapshot of plant health.
But we have to do all that to validate what we did with the drone, which throughout those 3 years, we flew the field every 2 weeks at least, with a sensor on board the drone, and that sensor is able to map both visible and invisible light that's reflecting off the plants to kind of gauge its health.
And while drones help farmers from above, new water treatment technology is helping on the ground, especially for Kansas cattle operations.
They take water out of a lagoon, which is the dirtiest water you can find on a feed yard, and send it through a series of membranes and technologies such as reverse osmosis. And then the outcome is a separation of solids. So everything that was gross in the water before is now separated in solids that can be used for fertilizer. And then the water piece is cleaner water that the goal is to make it as clean as what you would want to feed back to your cattle.
From drones that help detect crop stress to water systems that recycle every drop, Kansas farmers are seeing a new era of agricultural taking flight. For farmers, researchers, and students across Kansas, the future of agriculture isn't just coming, it's already here.
As technology continues to evolve, so will the partnership between students, professors, and farmers, all working together to advance agricultural innovation and bring the next wave of breakthrough tools to the field. Through the hustle and bustle of the weekly farmers market in downtown Manhattan, many farmers sell their products to residents. Friel Frazier, a frequent contributor to the market, is no different and wants people to know that his products and tinctures are for real.
When you first ask a Kansan to think about what farmers typically grow, the first thing that often comes to mind is wheat and corn. This farmer, Friel Frazier, grows dandelions. His farm, built on 105 acres, not only runs on dandelions, Frazier also raises cattle, grows fruit and other veggies, and hangs out with his turkeys.
Honey's the hardest, I say, because sometimes you get 15, 20 stings. And then these guys here, I could probably go, I've had them open without any protection on.
Many Manhattan residents attend the farmers market each Friday to stock up on local, fresh produce. Frazier's honey and eye-catching tinctures often catch their eyes.
I like to support local businesses, and it's local, fresh, and it's the best quality you can get around instead of going to the grocery store. And I believe in eating healthy, so eggs, meat, honey, you can't get better than that. Fruit, vegetables, whatever you need, they have it here.
Frazier says he can attest to the effectiveness of his products himself, and he hopes locals can also test them as well.
Go back to nature. God gave us everything to take care of us and heal us. Just like dandelions, which people mow down every day, they should be digging them up. The stinging nettle is another really, really good one. So back to nature is a real good place to go.
Frazier plans to frequent the Manhattan Farmers Market a bit less as the cold settles in, but said he plans to join back in the warmer months. Future farmers in Kansas are balancing classroom learning with early mornings and late nights in the field, juggling homework with harvest and exams with feeding livestock. We follow a student who splits time between campus and the family farm, along with a teacher who sees firsthand how different backgrounds and experience levels shape the next generation of agricultural leaders. Reporter Adolfo Blanco has the story.
In Kansas, many students arrive at the university carrying more than just books and backpacks. Some carry generations of responsibility, balancing classrooms, coursework, and the demands of a family farm. For students like Adam Blanchard, farming isn't just a background, it's a legacy.
My relationship with the farm is kind of interesting. I would say I'm the fifth generation of this farm overall, which started back in 1902.
Adam grew up on the Blanchard Farms, a 4,000-acre operation built over generations, and while he pursues an engineering degree at K-State, his roots remain deeply in the soil.
I'd say the management unit side of it now, he's ahead of me by quite a little bit, because he's into the computers, he's into innovation. If I would be gone tomorrow, and I was in that church for the obvious reasons, there's no doubt in my mind that he could take this and keep right on going. My deal is, I want him to be happy and do that.
In supporting these student farmers are professionals and professors who understand just how different their journey can be. The classroom becomes a place where backgrounds collide for first-gen students to fifth-generation farmers.
In a semester, I may have a student that has zero knowledge of agriculture, and I may have a student who grew up on a farm and has farmed their whole life. And so throughout the semester, the student who came in with nothing learns a lot, and the student that came in already having some base knowledge learns a little bit, but then towards the end of the semester they're more at the same level, which is kind of the goal that I would have with that class as an introductory class.
For many teachers, watching student farmers grow, both in confidence and knowledge, is the reward.
And I think the coolest part about teaching for me is when I'm talking to a student and I see the light bulb moment. Like, they get it, they understand it, they're enjoying it, they're learning something, and that's just really valuable. I love that. That's like an adrenaline rush for me. I just really enjoy that.
But it isn't just about the homework. It's about care, connection, and community. Even as students take on campus life, their heart remains in the fields they grew up in. They know they'll return, not just to work, but to lead.
Why not get the most out of your 4 years at K-State and meet new people? Because the people you meet in college will ultimately be your strongest connections throughout your entire life.
From the classrooms at K-State to the fields of their family farms, these students live two lives, and both are full-time. Their future is rooted in tradition, shaped by education, and guided by those who teach, support, and believe in them.
From longtime farm kids to students just discovering agriculture, the challenges they face today can become the opportunities that drive tomorrow's farms forward. As they learn from their professors, their families, and each other, these future farmers are building the skills and resilience that will keep Kansas agriculture growing for years to come.
Rising tariffs are increasing the cost of doing business for Kansas farmers. From equipment to everyday inputs, many producers are facing higher operational expenses at a time when margins are already tight. We'll take a look at how these tariff changes are influencing agriculture here in Kansas. Tariffs are back in the spotlight following the recent trade agreement from the White House, and the effects are starting to ripple into local markets.
First and foremost, tariffs are implemented with the hope that it promotes a domestic product. So it's ensuring that people that are producing their product in Kansas aren't competing with international products. It's all a very governmental business talk that food and agricultural people have to pay the price of.
But those trade decisions don't just shape global markets, they're now showing up in what Americans pay day to day.
And tariffs have a huge impact on consumers in their purchase decisions, in what they're able to buy, where they buy it from, can they buy local, is local cheaper, what are the effects tariffs have on local products. And so it goes into quality, quantity, location. Every decision is affected by tariffs.
And because tariffs don't stop at one product, they set off a ripple effect that impacts the cost of nearly everything in the local market.
Fertilizer prices are increased, so suddenly their farmers are paying more to fertilize their row crop, and then row crops are used to feed the beef industry, and then all of a sudden people are wondering, why have beef prices gone up? Well, it's because the food and agricultural industry is holistically interconnected to all things that are happening in the United States, and so these tariffs are affecting products you may not immediately think of when you think of the food and agricultural industry.
Tariffs continue to influence the price of materials and supplies farmers rely on, and many in the agriculture industry are watching closely to see how future changes could affect their operations. Coming up next, 2 K-State professors will sit down and discuss the pros and cons of the 2025 Farm Bill and what that might mean not only for farmers, but also the average person. That's next.
I'm happy to welcome K-State Agriculture Economics professors Nathan Hendricks and Jennifer If to talk about both the content and implementation of the 2025 Farm Bill, which is replacing the 2018 Farm Bill that has expired September 30th. To start off, how would you summarize the main goals of the 2025 Farm Bill, and what are some big changes from the 2018 bill?
This year is, I'd say, even more unique than usual in terms of the Farm Bill. The 2018 Farm Bill expired in 2023 for the first time. And there's been 2 extensions since then, which is normal. You can't always get a new Farm Bill negotiated when the old one expires. So that's where we were at the beginning of the year. Are we going to have a 3rd extension, or are we going to get a new Farm Bill? But what we had this summer was the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, OB3. And that was a budget reconciliation bill. Basically, you can think of it as a spending bill. So they couldn't change policy, but they could change spending. In this bill, they increased some of the expenditure for different parts of the Farm Bill. So this year, the language that's being used is a skinny Farm Bill, because some things were already passed and extended in OB3.
So one of the things that really OB3 came through and made some changes in like the SNAP program, which is a big part of the Farm Bill, which is assistance for food assistance, and then there's the traditional farm commodity programs that made changes there as well that extend out to 2031. But there's certain things they couldn't include changes in a reconciliation bill. So there's certain kinds it had to have an impact on spending. So there's certain kinds of things that were only within the jurisdiction of a reconciliation bill. So they did all that they could within the Farm Bill in that reconciliation bill. But now there's a few things left over that they weren't able to put in that they'll need to go back into this other Farm Bill to extend those.
How does it influence like rural broadband infrastructure and job creation?
So I said that nutrition programs make up about 75 to 85% of the Farm Bill. So that's one big part of the Farm Bill. It always has been for hungry people. You also have the farm safety net, and you also have conservation spending. Everything that's left over, I call the 1%, that would include rural development funds, but also research, the Forest Service, extension systems, food safety, lots of other areas, lots of public goods in there. And so what you're talking about would be, funding for rural infrastructure, and that is in the USDA rural development programs, and that would have to be addressed in the reauthorization, the extension of the Farm Bill or a new Farm Bill.
So the previous Farm Bill has been expired for nearly a month. Have we seen any impacts, or will we see any impacts in the future? So this.
Yeah, I mean, with the OB3, certainly offset a lot of the immediate impacts that were going to be felt, and so I think there's probably a little less pressure with OB3 having passed. But there are certainly some programs that are still really important to lots of different groups that weren't passed in there, and so originally they were talking about trying to get that Farm Bill, the skinny Farm Bill, passed this fall. Now here may be some more discussion going into the spring. And so, really depends how long that takes for them to be able to get that reauthorized, and whether they can do it pretty straightforward or whether they need to go through a longer discussion of how to reauthorize that.
I would bet on an extension, but I would never bet on politics. So who knows what will happen. I would say, though, a lot of times the extensions, and we've had 2 extensions, they don't get passed immediately after the previous Farm Bill or the previous extension expires. Sometimes there's a few months, and USDA can usually handle this. But at some point, USDA has to, start following what's called permanent law. The permanent law is 1949. And how the Farm Safety Net worked in 1949 is that the government had measures in place that effectively increased prices and reduced production. And the prices you were looking at might be tripling current prices for milk or for wheat. And so that would cause a lot of chaos in markets if it were ever actually implemented. It's one of the reasons that legislators usually come back and at least pass an extension of a Farm Bill if they can't compromise for a new one.
What are your hopes for the bill going forward?
Hopes.
I think one of the things is just that bipartisanship has been so important in the Farm Bill, and so that the coalition can come back together, right, and that they can find agreement on some areas, and so restore some of what I think there were certainly some friction of how things were done in for at least between different groups and some of the coalition, so that some of that coalition gets built back together.
So technically, we're not supposed to hope. We're supposed to provide unbiased analysis. But one thing I will say, to sort of build on what Nathan said, is that if things don't work, if you can't come together and have an extension or reauthorization, that's going to create instability, policy instability over time. So when producers are making decisions about risk management, about what they're going to plant, about the different practices they're going to implement, and it's, the broader farm, it affects the research and extension we do here at K-State that supports rural areas, production agriculture, and a lot of other things, the fundings that rural governments get. If that process, falls apart or starts looking very different, there's going to be a lot of instability on how, various public goods, various farm programs happen. So, I'd be most worried about instability.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I would like to thank you both for taking the time to come and speak with me and discuss the Farm Bill. Mm-hmm. So coming up next, we're going to delve deeper into the significant role played by K-State in advancing agricultural innovations and breakthroughs. Agriculture in Kansas is facing big challenges, from changing weather patterns to growing pest resistance, but researchers at Kansas State University are finding solutions in some very small ways. Reporter Adolfo Blanco shows us how scientists are using nanotechnology to help farmers protect their crops and the planet.
At Kansas State University, innovation is taking root on a microscopic scale. Researchers at K-State are exploring how nanotechnology, or the use of particles thousands of times smaller than a grain of sand, could change the way Kansas farmers fight pests. Their mission: to make crop protection more sustainable, safer for the environment, and more cost-effective for growers.
Every stalk of corn that's grown in Kansas has an insecticide seed treatment. We don't need that. We don't need anywhere close to that. We should just have it on demand.
Dr. Jeff Whitworth leads part of the USDA-backed research focusing on nanopesticides, tiny formulations designed to last longer, use less chemical, and reduce harm to non-target species.
And it has to be as effective, because it doesn't matter how safe it is. If it doesn't work, they're not going to use it. So those three are tied together. And I'm hoping that's with this nanotechnology, nanopesticides.
And for graduate researcher Salem Romeo, that partnership is the foundation of innovation.
My general interest is into sustainable agriculture. However, we can manage insect pests without causing harm to the environment or affecting other living organisms.
Salem Studies focuses on using carbon nanotubes, microscopic structures that help pesticides stick better and last longer, extending crop protection from just 1 month to potentially 3.
The goal is to, with the nanotechnology, to reduce the quantity of insecticide that we need, but achieving the same level of control. Like with the property of the nanoparticles, it can help us when applying insecticide to reduce the quantity that we will need to apply, but achieving the same level of control of an insect.
As Kansas farmers look towards the next growing season, researchers here hope these tiny technologies will make a big difference for crops, communities, and the climate.
Dr. Whitworth and his team plan to continue their USDA research through the next year, hoping to expand testing across more Kansas crops. Both he and Salem say the future of farming may just come down to the smallest of discoveries. Thanks for watching this Channel 8 News special, Cultivating Roots in the Heartland. Join us again in the next year as Channel 8 News returns to its regularly scheduled time. I'm Kyra Case. This has been a Channel 8 News special report.
This is KKSU-LD, broadcasting in high definition from Kansas State University, covering Manhattan, Riley County, and the Flint Hills. You're watching Channel 8 News.